This video talks about what you can do at home and hopefully avoid some doctor office visits and over-the-counter medicine for the common condition known as arthritis. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Jason West talking about arthritis. And to recap, arthritis is common but not really well understood. It's actually not a single disease. It's an informal way of referring to joint pain or a joint disease, and there's more than 100 different types of arthritis and conditions, and people of all ages, sexes, and races can have arthritis, and it's the leading cause of medical disability in America. More than 50 million adults and 300,000 children have some type of arthritis, and it's most common among women and occurs more frequently as people matriculate down the road of life. That's a nice way of saying you're getting a little bit older. Now, common arthritis symptoms include pain, swelling, stiffness, decreased range of motion, and the symptoms that can come and then they can go away, and they can vary from being mild or irritating to moderate or severe and not being able to do the activities that you would normally do. Now, they may stay for a short time period, they can stay for years, they can be progressive, they can be roller coaster. Arthritis can interfere with the activities of daily living, and it can also cause permanent joint changes. And sometimes you see these on people. They'll have swollen knuckles, they'll have enlarged or swollen knees, they'll be bent over in the spine, the shoulders don't work, the wrists don't work. It can also infect some organ system like the heart, the eyes, the lung, the kidneys, and even the skin. Now, just to summarize, there's a couple main types of arthritis, even though there's 100 in the family of degenerative, inflammatory, infectious, and genetic susceptibility. Food allergies have a huge factor in arthritis. Now, that's kind of the overview on arthritis. Let's talk about what you can do about it. Now, the first thing I think is most important is to get your body on a schedule because it craves order. Try to go to bed at the same time, try to get up at the same time. I found that changing sleep patterns really have a positive effect on arthritis. And you want to eat healthy and alive food. Avoid pre-digested, prefabricated, synthetic, and I'm kind of making fun of that whole process, but if your food has a tendency to be more plastic than food, it has a real propensity to aggravate your joints. And if you can decrease your inflammatory foods like sugar, and all of the 50 plus ways to describe sugar. Sugar is like throwing gasoline on the fire, and it's really inflammatory. So natural sweeteners like pure maple syrup, honey, stevia, natural fruit, it's a lot better for you, and it really helps to take the inflammation out of the joints. Now, I love recommending to people that have arthritis a hot and an ice approach. It's like a pumping mechanism. Heat has a tendency to make you feel better because it's a mild analgesic, but it also brings more blood supply and inflammation to the area. If you'll do 10 minutes of ice, 10 minutes of heat, 10 minutes of nothing, which you create a pumping mechanism, it really seems to help with joint problems. Hot foods like peppers, onion, garlic, radishes, things that really give a heat sensation to food seem to decrease inflammatory arthritis and osteoarthritis. And don't forget about teas. Now, in America, we don't drink as much tea as everybody else in the world, but chamomile tea, dandelion, black tea, and exercises that don't compress the joints, like swimming, biking, treadmill, and walking, are really good for arthritis. I don't think it's a good idea to not move because that has a tendency to make the joints extra stiff. But going out and running on a hard surface, doing certain types of exercises where you're just pounding the joints, I think is going to make things worse. Movement is important, but there are better types of movement. Like one example is swimming is really effective for limbering the joints. Now make sure you have enough vitamin C. It's my favorite vitamin because it's a powerful electron donor to the body. And what it does is like putting energy in the system. And then cloves, garlic, and onions, I mentioned a little bit before, but it's so good for reducing and containing inflammation. Now, omega-3s that are found in fish oil like salmon and stuff like that are really good for you, but just don't take a pure omega-3 supplement. I don't think it's balanced. If you take an omega-3 and you put in some GLA, some flaxseed oil, maybe some evening primrose oil. When you combine oils, I think you get a much more therapeutic outcome. And you want to avoid any of those allergens like dairy, nuts, and eggs. And I know that not everybody that eats that has arthritis, but here's the simple test. Instead of going out and spending a whole bunch of money in food tests, in making sure that you don't have allergy tests, don't go out and spend a whole bunch of money in food tests and environmental sensitivities, where a better way to do that is just avoid dairy for a time period and see what happens. Avoid nuts, avoid wheat, avoid eggs, and if you feel better, there's your answer. Now, most of the time, people give up way too early on a food allergy or food elimination diet. They'll say, I didn't have any wheat for a week or two. And the research that I'm aware of shows that if you avoid things for about 90 days, it gives the microvilli in your stomach associated with some of those stomach problems and inflammatory arthritis, it gives them a chance to reset. So if you're avoiding wheat and you haven't noticed a difference, my question to you is, do you think you've avoided it long enough? Now, don't discount healthy music. Turn up those tunes. And some of the classical Baroque music has been shown to be really effective in modulating arthritis. Become grounded. I love that advice that you should get out and walk barefoot on the ground periodically, because I think it grounds your system. And don't knock it till you try it. Have healthy calcium levels, about 1,200 milligrams a day, and foods like cauliflower, cabbage, kale, and my favorite vegetable that seems to have everything in it is broccoli. Now, moderate sun exposure and vitamin D supplementation of about 5,000 units a day, and some supplement considerations, which we're going to go into in greater detail in the next video, like ginger, fish oil, turmeric, cayenne, glucosamine, chondroitin, and my favorite, #1 recommendation for chronic arthritis pain is cetyl myristoyl, or what we call CMO. And then there's also a really neat cream, magnesium, ozonated olive oil, or a German homeopathic treatment like Traumeel or T-Relief can provide some really nice relief. Now, I'm all for living without pain, but I do want to recommend that you be really careful with over-the-counter medicines. Just because they're over-the-counter doesn't mean that they're completely safe. And people taking lots of things like Tylenol, Aleve, and aspirin, it does have an effect. It can be really hard on your stomach system. Some of those medicines can harden up your kidneys and give you a glomerulofocal nephrosclerosis, which I had to practice really hard to be able to say, or it can be really toxic to your liver. So if you can manage arthritis through lifestyle, through diet, and some properly prescribed nutritional medications, man, you can get amazing relief. This is Dr. Jason West, and we'll see you on the next video.